Welcome to part 2 of Understanding the IPM
With Lauren
and Gabby. The retrieval part. Retrieval!
Oh, life has been so hard since part 1 because I don't understand retrieval!
So let's recall what happened in part 1. Gabby?
I don't remember, Lauren.
That's okay. Why don't you use this model as an aid?
Oh, I remember we talked about memory and how it gets stored into our head. We talked about sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. The only thing I don't know is retrieval.
That's okay, Gabby. We haven't gotten there yet. That's what part 2 is all about.
Ooh.
Alright?
Yeah.
See, retrieval is the process of accessing information that has already been stored into your long-term memory. Sometimes we actually practice retrieval on a daily basis, and it's super easy, we don't even realize it. Some information is really easy to access.
Yeah.
Gabby, what was the first class that you ever SI'd for?
It was history.
Yes, that's easy, right? Because
Yeah.
you're so familiar with that. It's such a vivid memory that it's really easy to retrieve. It happens like that, right? But sometimes it can be a little bit harder. See, like if I asked you, Gabby, to make me a list or like a timeline of every single vacation that you've been on since you were a kid, could you do that? Every vacation, down to the detail with who you went, where you went, the dates?
No,
Okay.
stop. That's
Okay.
too much.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But if I asked you if you could do the same thing while looking at a photo album with pictures from every single vacation in order, would it be easier?
Oh yeah, super
Yeah,
easy.
see, that's the difference between free recall and aided recall. There are different ways to retrieve information. It's called recalling it, and you can do it as a free recall, where, like I asked you to make the list, right?
Yeah.
You have absolutely nothing helping you recall it, but then at other times you have a cue or an aid, something there to help you remember things and help you retrieve information from your long-term memory.
Okay.
Let's look at another example of recalling information that's already stored in your long-term memory, but that might be a little bit harder to retrieve. Gabby,
Yeah, Lauren.
I want you to draw me a yield sign. Okay,
Okay.
go. You see, Gabby seems to be suffering right now from something called retrieval failure. See, she
Is
sees
that a
you.
failure?
No, Gabby, not at all, not at all. Look, I'm going to explain a little bit here.
Okay.
Okay, and in the next phase, you'll see that you do know what a yield sign looks like. Okay, it's gonna be okay.
Okay.
All right. So unfortunately, like I said, Gabby seems to be suffering from retrieval failure. You see, she knows what a yield sign looks like, right? We all do, because we see it every day when we're driving, many of them. But sometimes, since this information isn't always relevant to us, it can be harder to retrieve exactly what the yield sign looks like from your long-term memory. See, retrieval can be a lot easier when you have something that's acting as an aid or as a cue. Now remember when I asked Gabby to draw a yield sign, I was just trying to get her to pull that information from her long-term memory without any sort of aid or cue available to her. Now I'm going to ask Gabby again, taking more of like a multiple choice test. It's easier to retrieve the information when you really see the answer right in front of you. So Gabby,
Yes, Lauren.
which one of these is the correct yield sign?
B.
That's exactly right, Gabby. Why do you feel like that was easier this time than it was before?
Because I can actually see the sign and remember it.
Yeah, you recognize it now,
Yeah.
right? Perfect. Now it's important to consider the different types of retrieval when you're planning your SI sessions. You see, we talked about 2 different types of retrieval so far. We have the free recall, where there's really no information to go by, there's no help, no cue or anything, you just gotta pull that information as best you can. And then we talked about aided or cued recall. And that can be easier because you have information there already, kind of like when I asked Gabby to look at the model and it helped her explain part 1 of the IPM, right? Well, the reason why it's so important to consider these things in your SI sessions is that maybe your students have test questions that are more open-ended, right? Where there's nothing when they're taking an exam to aid them to recall what the right answer is, right? Well, maybe sometimes your students take multiple choice test questions, right? Where there's something there for your students to recognize, and in that case, in a session, might be a good idea for you to do something like informal quizzes or incomplete outlines or incomplete matrices, something like that. When you really have to help your students practice free recall, it might be a good idea to do something like a 1-minute paper or a short mini presentation over something. You really have to consider the kind of questions or the kind of exams that your students are taking when you're considering what kind of recall and retrieval to practice in your sessions. So hopefully now you understand how retrieval fits in the information processing model.
Thanks for joining us, and
Good luck in training.